Hey guys, welcome. Glad you're here. So, I'm here with my old buddy Charlie. Now, you might be saying to me, well, who's Charlie? Well, Charlie was an interesting character. He was a famous actor way back in your great, maybe even just your grandparents' age. Now, he was at a time before there was actually sound with the movies. Now, the actual sound would come from piano players and orchestras that played along with the movie. But back in his day, there wasn't sound, so there was no speaking parts. So how did they compensate for that? Well, with their overacting ability. They would overact all the scenes and do things that would portray the part that that the director wanted the person to feel. Now, you may be asking yourself, what does that have to do with me today? Well, that's a very good question. I'm glad you asked. So, when we're writing, the reader can't physically see unless we have illustrations, and even then, they can't see exactly what's in our mind's eye when we're doing our writing. So when we're writing, we need to over-exaggerate, use colorful words, use words that describe, good adjectives that describe our noun, anything that can put over the top what you want your reader to feel. Because just a couple of words may be enough for you to picture it in your mind's eye, but your reader needs to see more. But the reason why you're here today is we are here for our next two thrilling chapters, chapter 47 and 48, in David Walliams' Ice Monster. Now remember, you've got to pay close attention because you will be answering those questions with complete sentences in the end. Let's get started. Chapter 47, A New Comrade. "This is where I sleep," announced Titch as he opened the door to his ward. "We should have hidden Wooly in here in the first place," muttered Elsie. "I don't think he shares it with other people," replied Dottie. "Well, I'm sure we could have told a few old soldiers to keep their traps shut." The door opened to reveal not a few, but 20 old soldiers, all poking their heads out of their berths. "Oops," said Elsie. Slowly, Titch led the woolly mammoth into the ward by the tusk. He coughed and cleared his throat. "Good morning, gentlemen. Gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please, I would like to introduce you to a new comrade." The old soldier put up their spectacles, attached any wooden arms or legs, and sidled into wheelchairs. Slowly they approached the magnificent beast. "What in God's name is it, Titch?" piped up one. "Does it bite, Private?" asked another. "Is this what we're having for breakfast?" said a third, who had a long white beard that made him look like a military Father Christmas. Elsie stepped forward. "No, this is my friend Wooly." "Good Lord, a female in the Royal Hospital," remarked one old soldier. "And another," said another. "The hairy elephant thingamagummy can stay, but they need to go," exclaimed a third. "Hoo!" Wooly seemed to hoot in agreement. "3 females in the Royal Hospital," thundered another old soldier. "This is a disgrace." "It's worse than a Boer War." "This place will have closed down." "It's a scandal of epic proportions." Titch raised his voice to shout over them. "Let's have some hush, men. Wait until you hear the girl's story. Elsie?" The girl smiled and cleared her throat. As she told the story, so far the old soldiers were rapt. They had heard stories of incredible bravery and daring do, but this tall tale topped them all. Elsie nodded with a plea. "Gentlemen, will you help Wooly?" "I'm in," came one voice. "I am too," came another. "Me too." "And me." "And me," said another, and another, and another, until all but one soldier raised his hand. All eyes turned to the one who hadn't. "Sorry, what was the question again?" asked the one who looked like Father Christmas. That's the Brigadier," said Titch. "He forgets things." "We'll take that as a yes." "Who forgets what?" asked the Brigadier. The mammoth lolloped over to the window at the far end of the long ward and looked out. Elsie trailed after her. Before following her gaze over the rooftops of London, Wooly lifted her trunk and pressed it against the window pane, as if longing for something way out of reach. Elsie stroked the mammoth's trunk and lifted one of her big furry ears and whispered into it. "What are you looking at, my friend?" she whispered. "If only you could tell me." Ooh. Chapter 48. North, North, North. Dottie ambled down the ward to join the pair. Do you think we could teach Wooly to talk? Talk? Yeah. Then she could tell us what she was looking at. But how would we teach her to talk? That would be the tricky bit, replied Dotty, looking lost in thought. Maybe we could teach her to 1 who for yes and 2 who's for no, and 3 who's for maybe. Then list all the places in the world and see what she says. Elsie didn't want to hurt the lady's feelings. It's a great idea, Dotty. It just might take a while to go through every single place in the world. She turned round to address the old soldiers. Does anyone have a compass? She asked. Admiral, you're never without yours, said Titch. That's right, Private, replied the Admiral. He began patting his pajama pockets. Now, where did I put the blasted thing? It's round your neck, said Titch. The Admiral found it on the end of a chain. It's round my neck. Why didn't you tell me? He took it off and limped over to the girl. Doof, doof, doof. Elsie noticed one of the legs was wooden. My leg, before you ask, was bitten off by a shark. Cheeky blighter did me a favor, really. I had gangrene. Anyway, so the leg had done green. Didn't have to have it sawn off. Shark died of food poisoning. Rum old business. The Admiral passed the compass to Elsie. There we are, young lady. We haven't been introduced. I am the Admiral, the only naval man in here. He was thrown out of the old sailor's home for drunkenness, remarked Titch. That night, I'd only drunk 7 bottles of rum. Private, thundered the Admiral. It takes at least 9 to get me drunk. A cloud of rum-smelling breath sailed right up Elsie's nose. Her eyes watered and she sneezed. It was so strong that for a moment she herself felt drunk. Thank you, Admiral, replied the girl. Elsie held the compass flat in her hand. The black arrow was pointing exactly the way the mammoth was pointing too. North, exclaimed Elsie. Hoo! Went the mammoth. See, she does talk, added Dotty. Every time Wooly has been pinning on to go north. Hoo! She's talking again, remarked Dotty. So, Admiral, tell me this, said Elsie. Yes, young lady, replied the old man with a smile. What is the absolute furthest north you can go? The Admiral guided the girl over to his bedside. Behold my globe, child. Beside his bed stood a magnificent orb with a map on it, with a map of the world on it. This came from my ship, before it sank, chiped in Titch. That's quite enough of that, Private. I adore gazing at my globe. It reminds me of my glory days, all those adventures on the high seas. Look, young lady, we are here in London. He indeed indicated the spot on the globe. Pop your finger there. The girl did so. Now trace your finger north, north, north. As Elsie moved her finger up, the Admiral read out the places. Scotland, Orkney Islands, Iceland, Greenland, the Arctic, the North Pole. You can't get any more north than that. The North Pole, said Elsie. Is it cold? The soldiers couldn't help but laugh. It's so cold, young lady, began the Admiral, that the sea is permanently frozen. There is no land, just a huge expanse of ice. Ice, she exclaimed. Perfect for a creature from the Ice Age. That's where we must take Wooly, to the North Pole. Whoo! Agreed Wooly. Elsie lifted her arms in a triumphant show of leadership. She looked round the ward. Every single old soldier stared back at her, mouth open in shock. All right, everybody. That will do it for today's chapters of 47 and 48. Now, Charlie, help me out on this one, would you? You, meaning each and every single one of you. Now, let's get this right the first time so we don't have to do it twice. Okay. You will be answering each and every question with complete sentences. Now, remember, try to restate the question. That'll help you write a complete sentence as well. And we'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget to click submit. All right, Charlie, what do you think of today's story? Man, a few words.